order. As is usually the case, we will start with continuations from previous meetings and go on to new matters. The new matters will go in ascending order, 1904, 1905, and 1906. And so at this point, I will call revision ARB 1903. At this point, I don't believe that person's here, so guess what? You're right. We will go on to first new matter, ARB application 19-04, 18 Continent Street. Petition.
Good evening. My name is Lizette Elias.
Let's go. Thank you for stating your name. So I was the vendor.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm here, representing Amy Payne. This is under a new application, but it is my second time here. We were previously approved for replacement windows, and we removed a door and replaced it with a window. For this application, we're proposing to add sliding doors out to a bluestone patio. The patio was approved by the planning board. And in our first submission, we had intended to replace this bilco to a flat bilco and actually relocate the side door here. That was not approved, so we would like to just put the window back. We also, this was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board as well. We have wall-hung air condensers. So I'm showing bringing the window back to the side of the house, the air condensers, and the bluestone patio, which we're actually reducing the existing impervious surface area. So we're adding the sliders that will now lead right out to that new patio, and 2 sconces on either side.
The fence is also new?
The fence was approved previously.
Okay.
These are just colored elevations.
So it's just the existing beige tan color of the house that's there?
Yes. Yes, we when we did the windows, we changed, the windows were white, and then some of them had been painted. So the new windows are this color that we had originally proposed that works with the existing house. So the new sliders will match the windows and the trim. Everything will match existing.
And the new replacements, so it's just the same that you did previously?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I'm not going to speak to the list of things that the building department was concerned about when it came to replacing windows and do I have that? Oh, no,
That was approved.
Yes, okay. All right, so we don't even have to go into that then. It's just a matter of approving that the sliding doors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Sliders on the back.
Right back there, top left.
I'll show you what that looks like now. This is where the sliders will be going. This is where we put in a new,
That's a powder room now.
that's a powder room, we put a window. We were gonna relocate that here. This was supposed to be flat, that wasn't approved. So that's the purpose for the sliders as well, because we did lose our backyard access. And we wanna be able to regain it and add more light into the house by adding more glass.
So those sliders are going to go down to that existing ground?
New patio.
There's
Oh,
there's a
patio, okay.
there's a new patio, and there's gonna be a step down.
Had you considered French doors?
We did. We just, inside the space, if I show you the room, it's not very big. So having the, well, thank you. Sorry. Let's just go to the plan quickly. It's not a spacious area, and having the doors swing into the room are little. There's nowhere for the doors to go when they're open. So the sliders made more sense.
I live on the next block. I know, it's challenging on either direction. We also have sliders for that reason. So.
Yeah.
You can't swing out, James?
There's
They
this-
can, but it's not optimal.
Yeah.
That was mostly for snow. I mean, you can certainly do it. I wouldn't recommend it.
Right, so that's the best. Okay.
For this, it is tight.
Okay, any additional questions, anybody?
It is pretty.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the application?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Before we go on, I believe,
Do you want this back? Good luck with it. We own the house behind it.
okay, we will recall if they're here,
ARB 1903, 3 Clifton Place.
Sorry, I'm late.
we skipped you, but we come back.
Thank you. Here's the original.
That's right here. While she was happy.
That's fine.
Hi, good evening, everybody. And we're back. I'm Sarah Blank from Sarah Blank Design Studio, and here on behalf of 3 Clifton Place. The homeowners have decided not to put the house on the historic registrar. So basically what we did was we went back and designed the window to be code compliant to national energy. And we still have maintained some historic aesthetic, so I think that we want to move forward as far as that goes.
You saw the pain in your eyes when you were told that you'd have to, come up to code. I'm glad you found a way to do that and not disrupt the historical beauty of the building. We're on your side.
Thank you.
James, did you have any architectural questions?
Just across, it seemed, while it's extremely detailed and everything seems to match, or at least get close to what you guys were intending, just not seeing the whole context of the home, is there any other greater change that you guys are making architecturally besides the windows? Like,
I had given you the, no.
Okay. I'm asking because I was
There is
on the original-
there's the French door, but that, I think that's, I
I
had,
think the way that it's,
we haven't changed it from what, yeah.
no, mine is, I'm diving backwards in time because I wasn't involved in the.
It's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
So, I mean, aesthetically, the way you're doing to the areas, I have no issue.
Remember the case, Ken?
I do. What are the difference? Hello.
Hi, how are
They
you?
decided to go,
They don't want to put it on the historic registrar, so
they're
maybe I can push them one day, but not right now.
coming up to code and keeping it as close to what it looks like now as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Looks like that.
Parrot is really great, Parrot Windows, so they've helped us with the Munton profile and maintaining the character, and have basically, based on the shops, it really, I think you really have to stare at it to see a difference.
I'm good. Okay.
Great.
Anybody? Gail? You're right. Do I have a motion to approve the application?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have extra copies. And they use okay.
Okay, so the next 2 applications will be presented by this gentleman, and he is...
My name is Brandon Stewart, representing Michael Lewis Architects. And the owners, I guess, Shady Lane looks like it's first, correct?
Sarah, Libby? Yes, 16 Britain.
Oh, Bertha Place, okay.
Yeah.
Here's one more if you want.
Yeah. We need to really.
I know you need them when you're on the job.
Have a good evening.
So, again, Brandon Stewart representing the owners, Mia and Jared Libby of 16 Bertha Place. This is Bertha.
Oh, sorry.
Starting, sorry.
Looking at that.
Okay.
I had it here for a long time.
I already looked at it. I was trying to catch up on shape.
Okay, why don't you just start to take us through the,
Great. So here's the front of the house. There's three major things that are happening to the house. One is that this front covered porch that's currently semicircular is going to be replaced by one of almost equal width, equal depth, but it's just being squared off with double columns, which you'll see on the elevations. This front stone path is getting reworked. Right now there's kind of a weird elbow in it, and it meets the driveway at a 45-degree angle, so that'll be straightened out. And lastly, in the rear of the house, there's going to be a little one-story dining room addition that fills in this area of the house and kind of connects the three spaces. And these are just other views of the house not to be impacted by the new work. So again, on the plan, here's that front porch that's getting squared off. You can see the existing one dotted below. You can see the stone walk getting straightened, and you can see this small dining room addition on the rear, covering a portion of an existing bluestone patio.
nothing separate to the patio?
Nope. This is a step that's to remain, and all of this bluestone is to remain. Simply just one portion of it getting covered by the addition. Perhaps some of it will be impacted by construction, but the idea is to keep it.
What's the age of the house?
I don't think we have that information, but there's a couple of apparent additions. Most recently, you may remember, this was done. This little office addition was done maybe 2 or 3 years ago by a different architect. And you can kind of, there's evidence that the garage was, this portion of garage was an addition with the master above. Other than that, it's a pretty classic colonial layout. And so here we have just our double-hung windows on the back, a swing door, and some biparting sliders into the living room, also as part of the work. And on the elevations, I hope it was clear, we put a note that the darkened shade is only to indicate what's proposed. It's not a different siding color than the existing. So this just shows you that small addition on the back, the new sliding doors, the double-hung windows around, and this is the view from the other side with yet another replaced large door opening onto the patio. And here in the front you can see the double columns. We've tried to, the current covered porch is matching the style in a fairly effective way, but we're proposing something that's perhaps even more in keeping with the style, with some stone piers with bluestone caps and treads, and the double column and the frieze wrapping around. And of course, that detail is also spelled out on the last page.
Gentlemen, any comments?
Nope. I see the existing photos.
I guess the last thing to mention is the cedar shake siding that we're matching it will be painted the same color, an off-white, and the trim will be painted white also to match the existing.
Are you changing the front door at all? Or just changing everything around it?
The front door will be replaced, yes.
Are you keeping the storm door
Um,
or no storm door?
you mean on the front?
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be totally replaced. You can see, I guess on the plan. Yeah, with 2 side lights.
It's getting wider.
Yes. More light into the entry.
I'm not saying that it's inappropriate, like the front entry's nice, it's a little busier,
Mhm.
and slightly heavier than all the other trim and ornament.
Mhm.
It's-
Kind of clumsy.
This is,
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is better,
Mhm.
but just from the recommendation, that's purely, it's not.
Yeah.
I would just go back to maybe
The
like a
simple
singular
frieze.
column. No, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind that there's a little more detail, but I think the rest of the trim in the building is pretty simple.
Mhm.
And your frieze there's a lot of components to it.
True.
And I think the stone piers are nice.
Mhm.
I would, purely aesthetically, I would turn it into 2 singular columns, like
To-
we had it before, rather than double.
To not monumentalize
And
it too much, right?
just pump the brakes like a little bit on the detail. And I'm not being specific, but it seems, it's definitely an improvement from what's there, but it
Right.
seems like busier than everything else.
Right.
Personally speaking.
Right.
Usually when you see those 2 columns, you would see 3 columns. It would sort of.
Around the corner.
Go
Yeah,
around.
it would go around.
Right. Yeah,
It
it's
was just 2 singular columns.
it's kind of a question of where do you stop, right? We were exploring even like a balustrade type of thing, but all of that
No,
seemed like
that's
that was
too
too
much.
far.
Yeah.
So,
If you can zoom in.
sure, do you want to see that detail? And in fact, this detail I think is less busy than what is portrayed
Elevation.
on the elevation, right? And I think with all those lines,
It's a lot of
it does
lines.
look very busy.
Yeah. The detail might be less than.
Yeah.
Personally, I would take one step out.
Uh-huh.
That's, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm just saying it's,
Mhm.
the second OG before I get
Yep.
to the gutter is like,
Yeah.
it just adds a heaviness to it.
One
I think
extra.
you should keep the frieze in the lower level,
Uh-huh.
and then I think it looks way nicer than it was, but just slightly simpler.
Right.
You have lighting on the porch?
No, there's no lighting proposed as of now.
I
We're
think you need to
hoping
have
to-
the lighting.
Mhm.
One by code.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something recessed, we probably
Yeah,
can't
up
speak to.
Can you look at the section? Maybe it's there.
No, I don't think there is. But
And this
there's
one.
no electrical plan yet, so I guess when we get there, we'll explore. But no,
You have to have a light next to it.
it would be,
Yeah.
overhead. I think existing, I believe there was some
Not
sconces.
more.
Yeah, there were some sconces before, but
Yeah.
we didn't want to retain those, so I guess you're right, there will have to be some replacement
Wait,
overhead
it's-
lighting.
If it's going to be sconces, you're going to have to go back.
It won't be sconces. We wanted to,
If it's recessed lighting up, and
that's what we're talking about, yep.
Okay. Any more, gentlemen?
I have no comment on the rear comment, or those other
Is there
additions.
going to be a change on the drawings?
I don't know whether or not they were convincing enough.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at the height of it. We wanted to make sure it wasn't too weak. The previous one's rather thin. We wanted to make sure it had enough presence to it. Perhaps you're right. I think we would want to stick with the height that we're proposing, which is
I'm not opposed to
about
the
16.
scale.
But perhaps
overall.
one less line, you're
Literally,
saying.
if you, and this
Yeah.
is my opinion, if you agreed to take out this ovule and that like OG and just
Mhm.
make it freeze like a little bit flatter, this
Yeah.
actually feels, this line right here
Yeah.
feels tiny.
Uh-huh.
Like for its,
Rather than
it doesn't feel like
the
a freeze, it
band.
feels like 20 pieces of trim building
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
If you took out those 2 pieces, done, call it a day, for
Mhm.
me.
But keeping the 4 columns.
Oh, I still think, that's personal opinion, I don't,
That's
You-
just-
I agree with you, but I think that's really personal. It's your call.
I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
we're not.
Okay.
So, are you going to take those items off there, or are you going to keep it?
Well, we'll explore it again in elevation if we need to. It's going to come down to what we feel is the right proportion, which we think we've achieved. I agree that in this particular drawing, with the level of detail at this scale, it does make it look very busy. The hope is that once it's all painted, it'll be less busy than this.
Drawing that above reality.
Definitely.
Once again,
He's assuming it, essentially what he's saying is.
If we need to commit to that, I think we'd still want to look at it carefully, but we'll remove it if that's a condition for approval. We can do that.
I don't think, I
To
don't,
make that
That's-
back
We're
hall?
not making it a condition.
I'm not making a
Yeah.
condition.
Okay.
I'm making it a recommendation as an
Okay.
individual.
okay, so we're approving the application as submitted.
Great.
Second, first, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Aye. Opposed?
Yeah, I'll post.
Okay.
I do, I just think it'll look better.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's not a deal breaker for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now we go to, 3 Shady Lane.
3 Shady Lane, yes.
Oh, wait, you want that? Do you know what's that? I don't think you gave me, no? You can add, the ones that are important are still the last.
Okay.
Great. So,
That's what I think.
okay. So again, for the record, Brandon Stewart representing Michael Lewis Architects, the owners at 3 Shady Lane, Andre and Brooke Bridges. This is, the work that's being proposed now is the third and final phase of the work that's been done on the house since 2013. The grand plan has always been at the end to improve the approach to the house. Currently, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the property. It's very large. It's at the very end of Shady Lane. Can't be seen from the street or almost from any neighbors. But the driveway approach comes to this fairly nondescript side of the house, which does not look and act like the entry. There's this deteriorating stair with a small porch at the top. As you go around the house and you approach the rear, which is where currently the owners enter, it looks a lot more like the front of the house, which it was. This was a carriage path that serviced the larger property above. So the intent is to remove this small porch and replace it with, to grade a little bit and create a stone retaining wall to contain this upper level, which will be more of a nice landing place. It will meet grade at this point, at this edge of the driveway, with the exception of a couple of risers. And so that's one portion of the work. And then in the rear, we're proposing a rec room addition at the cellar level and a slight addition as well at the first floor level at the dining area. And lastly, the attic is proposed to be finished with a shed dormer on the back of the house. So in other words, not on this view, but behind, that pops up and provides some finished space in the attic. Any questions before I move past the photos? Yes.
Is it still gonna be asphalt?
Yes. And we have been a little bit concerned about having it be too much hardscaping with asphalt meeting right up with stone. The tallest point of the stone wall occurs here. It's about 4.5 feet tall. So we're trying to mitigate that with a lower planter. This is more of a, it's called out as another stone wall, but it's really more of a curb that will contain some plantings that we hope will soften that transition a little bit. And then again here you can see the extent of the proposed front porch, covered front porch, the proposed shed dormer on the back of the roof, and the proposed footprint of the rec room addition below, most of which will have a deck on top of it, a small portion of which will be that first story dining room addition I mentioned. So here again in more detail, covered front porch, 3 risers down to a native planting / wildflower bed with some stepping stones to the driveway, 3 wood posts on piers supporting the roof, a wrought iron guardrail just on this one side, and then here in the rear you can see the deck. And here's again the plan of that rec room below. And this doesn't show much. This is just the attic plan showing the additional square footage afforded by this shed dormer in the rear. Again, a new front door that's proposed to be an Anderson residential entry door with side lights. And then also on the second floor, the only work occurring there are these two small windows, which we felt deserved to add to the symmetry and to finish the composition of that front facade. On this side of the house, this is the driveway coming onto the side of the house, and through here is where the owners currently enter. The only thing changing here is just you can see in profile that front porch. Here's that opposite side of the house. You can see the shed dormer. You can see the profile of the front porch with the wrought iron and the stone. And you can see the rear addition with the deck above. And lastly, this is the rear view of the house. Windows at the shed dormer, sliding glass doors at the basement level, and the deck above.
Can you?
Oh, and I'm sorry.
So can you, it's hard to see on this, but the wrought iron work on the porch is only on the sides, or is it
Yes.
running all the way? 'Cause you have two pieces of wrought iron work. If you could show us a plan where that is.
Okay, sure.
Between the columns of the driveway, yeah.
Yeah, this is the only portion of that covered front porch which has a drop off. This is all, other than these three risers, this is all kind of at the same level as the porch, and this is at the same level, except for the two risers, of the asphalt driveway. So that's the only portion that requires that railing.
Even when you get to the stone wall? Because
And
I
it-
thought you were at 4 feet there, that was the...
At the stone wall, yes, you'll see we're proposing in the elevation a temporary guardrail while the plantings come in. And there was a planting plan also submitted. Here you go. You can see that temporary wood fence until plants reach
That's a
maturity.
wood fence, okay. Now,
Right, and that's just temporary until the Hugendorf holly and the other plantings we've proposed come in.
Okay. So, I think the one comment I would have is the dormer seems big.
Mhm.
I get it, I understand it. Is it possible to have more of a shed on it? Because it just seems like steeper.
It's like a flat roof,
Uh-huh.
basically. It's not very close.
I would say try and bring it down to see where the peak of the
Of
opposing, yeah.
This one?
Yep, because that's a line.
Uh-huh. You mean
What is-
bring this edge of it down to that
But
level?
you can tell me that, because I see, it looks different in the, if I look at the elevation at the bottom, it looks like the peak is much lower than it shows in the elevation.
This peak?
Yes, because that's what I'm looking at, right?
That's correct.
So there it's about halfway up the window, but when I look at the elevation at the top, it seems much higher.
You're right. It does seem higher.
Do you know the head height of the windows in there?
Yes, and that's what I was going to mention. The current
The
attic.
floor height looks, I mean, it's obviously low.
Tight. We
Yeah,
understand
it's I can show you on the plan, but there's only one real strip of the existing unfinished attic that has, I think it's 7'3", and so to depart from a point much lower than that,
that. I wouldn't say departing, I would just say
just the pitch.
the pitch.
Yeah, and
That's
I
why
guess
I'm asking what the head height is, because it's just,
that's probably not much of a problem. It looks like there still can be a nice header before we come down too far on that. So
just thinking. I think you're gonna have water problems. If the roof is
In the
all
wind,
asphalt, right?
Yeah.
yes.
In the wind, it'll just go underneath it. You'll have to put the whole, tell us about the windows that you're,
Yes, these are, I think they're Anderson 400. No, they're Anderson A series, matching the previous round of
okay. Remind me what A-series are.
their wood.
Fibrex.
They're the slightly above the Anderson
Wood
400s.
composite, so it's
Yeah,
kind of
wood interior, that's wood interior.
Wood interior, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Wooden resin.
Yes. The and the profiles, the sight lines are slightly chunkier than they are on the 400 series because it's a little bit more natural of a product.
And I think that temporary wood fence is the troublesome thing in my mind.
Uh-huh.
I actually think the wrought iron's the trouble, I think. It just seems out of place. I'm not sure, I would just put the same fence on the back or something different, even though it's slightly more modern detailing, it just seems out of character.
Mhm.
Personally.
I'm kind of thinking of the artistic, there's something about it that's
Yeah.
purposeful.
It's sort of it's a placeholder. We didn't feel like it was appropriate to use this language on the front of the house.
Mhm.
That's originally how we had it drawn, but then we realized from the front it deserves to be more matching of the old farmhouse style. So that's why there's that one section of it.
And then the other question I have, if you go back to the entry elevation,
Is there an example of that on the existing structure? I mean, was there?
Of the wrought iron?
Yeah.
No,
I don't see it stylistically matching.
this is an existing covered porch,
Mhm.
which had a very nondescript iron railing.
Just like pivots and ground. Just-
Yes, nothing ornamental like that. Is this the one you're referring to?
so is that the original column locations? Are they?
No, this is completely demoed, so now that we have
So
three
my
columns.
comment, and it's interesting because there's a lot of houses in the village that have these colonnaded porches.
Mhm.
And it seems like the spacing is, you could have a different division of columns, like another, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but just to give it a little more. What's the length of the porch?
Let's see.
And then I have a really silly question, I just can't see. Is that center column aligned with the peak of the dormer?
Yes, it is. To address the column quantity, with the door off center, we were struggling with making sure we weren't covering this window or the door with a column. So this seemed like the best solution.
I've heard this all along, you're blocking the view of the column, nobody sees the column. It's just
Uh-huh.
the view.
Yeah, it's of course not the elevation view that you ever see.
Exactly. And you never see it in elevation.
Right.
So you could have aligned it with,
Yeah, I mean, you
it's
could
very
still.
mannered to put that column in the middle.
That's true. You could have
Yeah.
either asymmetry or if there were four. I mean, I agree. It's not so much about the view, but to be able to just walk straight out into and see straight in and walk into this garden is kind of what the owner wanted to go for. They really wanted something that was kind of felt like it was just an extension of that was more natural with natural grasses and things.
Yep. And it's gonna grow in.
Yeah.
You're replacing the garage door
Yes.
with what?
There's a cut in the packet.
Oh,
It's a grooved panel front by Holmes. The idea is it'll roughly match the profile on the siding, the exposure on the siding, rather.
Existing siding is 1x6, 1x5.
I think 1x6.
Is it painted to go away, or is it
Um,
the same, or is it the trim color?
The garage will be the trim color, which is
it's insulated?
this lighter gray. Yes.
Who's this, Holmes?
Yeah, Holmes. It's a new product that we've started to see.
And it's steel, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all my comments.
This is my argument for that railing.
Yep.
This is modern, that's modern. The railing's modern.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I mean, there's this.
Oh, I
like
see
full
it, now I
glass
see
entry.
it, now I see it.
I'm not saying.
When I first saw it, I just thought it was a series of circles set on each other, a little more modern. This seems like the iron worker had a good.
Yeah, and I think since it is wrought ironwork and it's ornamental wrought ironwork, there wasn't really a way to tell you exactly what it's the style of it. So we just took our best shot at kind of a placeholder.
I actually don't think it's going to be visually seen by anybody. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
Mhm.
that it's not,
That's
It just
that's
seems
a
out of place when I look at
good
it.
argument. I mean, I guess especially with the garage door is even called modern grooved panel, and with the railings elsewhere, that's something we can look at.
And the stone, just remind me what the stone is? For the wall.
Fieldstone
Yes, Gil.
to match this. There's this whole language of this sweeping retaining wall which bounds the driveway. It will be all to match that going around.
So it's face stone, not stacked.
Yes, it'll be a veneer stone wall.
So this is the new color, the charcoal gray?
Yes, the darker gray there is the siding, the lighter gray is the trim.
This
Glass
is a modern house.
windows.
That's not
That was
full-
just
that's
the
not
palette.
foolishness.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Which is fine, You're,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
Right.
I think it's a great addition to the house to create that front entrance. It's
oh, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
and very well thought out.
I understand the
is this
mannerist
deck?
argument with that column, so we'll think about that.
Yeah, keep this.
What is the
one.
wood?
That mahogany is perhaps reads stronger on the board than it should. That's just it's going to be a mahogany cap on the cable railing at the rear.
What's the front decking? Trex.
Trex, which is
That's the
also
darker Trex.
also on there, yes.
And your gutters?
Those will be black. Those will be painted black to match the windows. That's called out on the elevation as well.
Okay. It's not on here, but it must be something else.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. So the entry door is the same as the window, it's an A-series door.
Yes. Well, Anderson has a new line
Or the
of
pattern.
residential entry doors. Yeah.
So it's black finish. It's the same.
Yes, and it'll match mullion patterns and everything else.
Need a brush.
I need a insulated garage door.
All right, where are we?
I think that's it for me.
But where did we end off on that dormer?
If you marked it on here that you were gonna lower the dormer, I think that would be fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I would want to make sure we weren't shooting ourselves in the foot with the head heights. I think. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like 7'6" at the ridge, pitching down to 7'3".
I think you can.
I know you can go to 6'8" in basements, but I'm wondering if
It's the percentage of the room that's above 7L that you need
Oh.
to get to. So it's not, you don't need the whole room to be habitable, but you do need, I believe, 50% of it. So that 7'3" that you're coming up to in the gut. like-
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, I know you want to get maximum height. I
yeah.
just don't, I don't think timberline is supposed to be like installed
Yeah.
under like a.
2 to 12. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this seems.
They'll
very-
tell you, the roofer will tell you, you need to put a membrane roof on there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, or metal.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't commit to it until
Yeah,
I
and-
drew a section.
Yeah.
And since it is at the rear of the house, where it won't be really seen, maybe it's about the detailing and maybe going with a different type of roofing there. To your point about pitch.
So this is a valve, right?
Yeah, that's stopped short. So it's.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah.
It'll show better on the other side.
So he's gonna
Yeah,
have
it's
a
got a
cricket
big
in
valve.
there.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
That's why you're saying
Yeah.
this looks like it's way up here, but
Yeah.
it's actually down here.
Yeah, that we're gonna need
Yeah,
to
we
look
can't,
at that.
I don't think you can touch that because then you
No.
don't have any windows.
No, I was just, if you dropped it to here, to the head.
Yeah, I'd be dropping it to the smallest we could with keeping a header in there.
I mean, it would still look.
But yeah, that's the thing about the look of it. Since it's at the rear and you never see that straight on side, I think it's probably more about the detailing on to make sure there's no leaks.
What are they using this room for?
Storage and an office. And this-
Yes, storage and an office, yes.
With an open stair all the way down, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we'll have to look at that detail then, for sure, before filing with Ed to make sure we have it we have it right with the,
So you have the opportunity to come back with it.
Hmm?
You could come back with it if you're fixing it. You'd have to come back.
if we're changing the roofing
Yeah.
type?
Mhm.
Okay.
You can come back in 2 weeks without, we just,
We would
Oh.
just go right through it and say, fine.
Okay.
Because I'd say it's the only thing that's outstanding in my mind.
Most of the comments that I have are like,
How the
what I think are like, just recommendations.
Yeah.
Like I like the mahogany, I think you should see it on the front of the house.
Uh-huh.
Like scrap the Trex or do something with your front door, because I actually think that's gonna make it pop a little up. I think the building's too black.
Mhm.
Like with all the trim and stuff.
Yeah.
I actually think you need a little relief.
Uh-huh.
Like, one complaint not a complaint, that I was going to say is, as much as I don't mind the patio line door from Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you're doing so much to make the entry,
Yeah.
and it feels like, well, it has sidelights or something else. I
Uh-huh.
wonder if the front door should have a
Have
little
more
vibe
presence to it.
Like, if the front door was, I'm not saying buy a mahogany door,
Mhm.
just 'cause it's
I would say
expensive, that would
that.
look great.
Yeah, but you can get a simple one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is
Like a
purely
slab,
recommendation.
slab door, right.
I just actually think that
I can't remember the name.
now that I'm thinking about the palette, it
Mhm.
feels.
Phil Simmons? Is that
Simpson.
the- Simpson door.
Simpson, yeah.
Yeah.
The covered one, it's not.
No, I've got a solid one. It's really beautiful and insulated light. And they have a whole lot of different versions of how to side light.
Okay.
If you wanted that.
There's a bunch of, I mean, this is just a recommendation.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
a deal breaker.
Right.
And I actually think or I would say the same thing, that's why I was kind of fishing. When I asked if that mahogany was your deck,
Yeah.
I thought
to
it
have
would really lighten the front.
to have some warmth at the front by some of that.
And I like that, purely recommendation. I would
Yes.
say, get rid of the curly cube railing, it seems out of place. I
Yeah.
put the same railing you're putting on the back, add a little more mahogany on the front.
Right. Okay.
And fix your head height because you're gonna have leaks on the shed.
Okay. And if we go back to the drawing board and we determine that we don't want to lower that because of head height.
You'll show us a section and I'll explain it.
Okay. And if we change the roofing type, we'll come back, right?
Yeah, I would just take a look at it in detail too before you, and how it relates to the ridge that wasn't lining up in elevation. And it can't be seen, and we understand why you're doing it, but
Yeah.
it does look awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But we know why you're doing it.
Yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't appear that we will be confirming or approving the application today. I guess the changes that were discussed, you decide whether, what you want to do with those changes, and we should come back and show us what it is, and we'll just discuss very quickly, I'm sure, of what it is you
Okay.
want to do.
If we were to just do a straight replacement of the roofing type, but leave the pitch where it is, would that be able to be like a conditional approval and then just work through it with Ed on the specs to make sure we did it correctly, or? Because I'm not totally sure if we're gonna,
Remember?
a membrane roof, yeah, something.
I mean,
And we'd look at the Timberline specs closer too to see if there is some solution, some other type of underlayment or something that would satisfy it.
this is just, again, kind of personal opinion. The things that you're, now this would be a slippery slope. What's the minimum pitch that you can do with a metal roof? 3?
Not sure.
And it just always feels weird to have just like one-off random membrane roof or something. I know, and then.
Yeah,
Susan does
that
too.
lower one for sure.
Yeah. And that's got mold and stuff on it, that's always,
Yes.
It would be weird if it was going to the peak and it was metal, that's the.
I would,
You can do a membrane underneath the timberline, but it's just, they're penetrated, they can't even help themselves.
Yeah.
It really does blow back when you have a flat roof like that. That's the
Mhm.
issue. But again, why don't you go look at it? You won't be back in 2 weeks. It'll be done.
Okay.
You know, go upstairs, measure the ceiling.
Yeah, make sure you're not getting a head knocker either way.
Okay. Well, I think we know what it is. It's marked on there, but
I'm not trying to get more anyway.
and I also I guess if it were to come down that much, I don't know. We might still have to replace the type of roofing. So.
I mean, I think it's best to have it work as timberline
Mhm.
and have it be the same and have it go away as much as it can. It just, it proportionally is awkward on the back of the building or not on the back of the building.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't like to recommend doing things if it looks good, even though the public way can't necessarily see it.
Right.
Because I'm sure you look at it.
Of
you're
course
like,
it should-
this
it should
is-
be right.
Office upstairs, that's why
Mhm.
like, you wouldn't do it if it was your best. It wouldn't be your best option.
If it were
If you had a
construction.
different situation, I get it.
Mhm.
So I think it's appropriate to look at it one more time.
Mhm.
And I actually think some of the other, I'd look at some of the other
Railing
areas a little bit more
details.
too, just minutia.
Yeah.
Because if you came back with that, I think if you came back with a different front door,
Mhm.
that was more front door light, I'd ignore what's happening on the back.
Yeah.
Honestly, and not to be rude, but
Right.
I don't think I can approve it
At the very front. Okay.
personally.
Okay, so, do you know
Yes.
what you need to do
Yes.
before you come back?
So in terms of submittals, would we send just an elevation sheet or just where there's been changes? Or are you saying we would just come back and show you in person what we've done?
You'll probably, your best bet is to send the changes to Ed.
Yeah.
And Ed will, forward that to us, but beyond that, there's not a whole lot other than the roof that we're,
Okay.
overly concerned about, but,
Okay.
all right? Yeah, no, I don't think you don't have to.
No, you don't have to do the whole thing.
Okay.
Just the areas that are affected.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to do the door, then we'll need to see the front, but beyond that, most of the times, for us, it's the exterior elevation drawings
Yeah.
that we need to see.
That make the most.
We've already seen the
Difference.
floor plan, so.
We
All right,
don't want you
okay.
to- we don't want you to waste paper for the sake
Yeah,
of
yeah.
doing it.
Okay. Maybe we'll
Elevation.
submit something on tabloid or something showing the areas that have changed or something. Okay.
I'm sure that'll be fun.
Great.
Okay?
Will do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.